Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
I remember the clock striking 12, not in any grand or theatrical way, but with the solemn tick of inevitability. Midnight had arrived, quiet, still, and cloaked in the chill of early spring. I was brushing my teeth when I heard Ashton cough. Once, then again, deeper, stranger. I paused, toothbrush in hand, phone clinging to my lips. Then I heard the thud. Ashton? I called from the bathroom. Silence. I rushed into the bedroom, heart suddenly tight. He was on the floor beside the bed, his face pale, eyes glassy, one hand still clinging to the edge of the nightstand like he tried to keep himself upright. Ashton. I dropped to my knees, shaking him. Honey, can you hear me? His lips trembled slightly, as though a word had almost formed. And then nothing. Deanna, I screamed toward the hallway. Call 911. Within minutes, the house was alive with flashing red lights and rubber soles squeaking across hardwood floors. The paramedics moved with brisk, practiced efficiency. I clutched the edge of the doorway, watching helplessly as they tried everything. CPR. Defibrillation. A slurry of medical words I couldn't follow. I remember the moment one of them turned to me, her face folding into something soft and rehearsed. I'm sorry, Mrs. Thornbridge. We did everything we could. I couldn't breathe. Deanna stood at the stairs, trembling in her pajamas, her eyes wide and wet. She was only 12, but that night aged her. I pulled her close. He's gone, I whispered into her hair, still warm from sleep. Daddy's gone. When I finally gathered enough strength to lift the phone, my fingers shook dialing Eleanor's number. Ashton's sister. She didn't pick up, neither did his parents. I tried again. On the fourth try, Ashton's mother finally answered. Alice, she said, her voice slightly slurred. Laughter echoed in the background, glasses clinking, music playing. It's Ashton, I whispered. He had a stroke. He passed away. Just now. There was a pause. Oh, that's terrible, she murmured, then quickly added. But we're at Eleanor's anniversary party. It's her 30th, you know. Everyone's here. It's really not the best time to talk. My mouth went dry. Are you saying you're not coming? I asked, my voice catching. She sighed. We'll see what we can do tomorrow. Eleanor would be heartbroken if we left now. The line went dead. I stared at the phone in disbelief. My husband was dead. My daughter had just lost her father, and they wouldn't even leave a party. I turned to the window, watching the ambulance pull away, its lights flashing like a cruel mockery of celebration. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the impression he left on the sheets. My hands still smelled like his aftershave. They hadn't shown up tonight, but I had a sick feeling in my gut. They would, but not for the reasons I hoped. The funeral was scheduled for Thursday morning, though I would have postponed it indefinitely if I could. But Ashton's mother insisted. It's best to get it over with quickly, she had said, as though we were discussing removing a bandage. The chapel smelled faintly of lilies and dust. Diana clung to my hand, her small fingers trembling. Her black dress, a size too large, hung awkwardly on her thin frame. We were the first to arrive. I didn't want it that way. I wanted to slip in last, unseen. But there we were, front row, the casket glaring at us like an unanswered question. Then they came. First, Eleanor swathed in expensive black silk and crocodile heels, her designer sunglasses perched dramatically on her head. Behind her, Ashton's parents, arms linked. Not one of them had cried. Not even once. Oh, Alice, Eleanor said as she leaned in, her lips grazing my cheek. Cold. Perfumed. Hollow. You're holding up. Surprisingly well. I'm not, I replied bluntly, then turned away. They took their seats like royalty arriving at a performance. I watched Ashton's mother pull up her compact mirror and dab her lips, her brows perfectly arched. My hands tightened on my lap. When the priest finished his sermon and the chapel fell into that terrible post-eulogy silence, Eleanor rose. She walked to the lectern with confidence that bordered on arrogance, glancing back at the coffin like it was an accessory. I just want to say a few words, she began, voice trembling, but not from grief. My brother was a complicated man, talented, intelligent, and loyal to his family. She glanced deliberately at their row. We shared everything growing up, except his stubbornness. That was all his own. I felt Diana shift beside me, I squeezed her hand. After the final prayer, the family swarmed around me like wasps. Ashton's father leaned in. "We'll need to talk soon. About his estate. His will is with the lawyer," I said quietly, "and everything is clear." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "We'll still want to review it, just in case." Eleanor's voice was sugar. "You're staying in the house, of course?" "Yes, it's where Diana and I belong." She tilted her head. It's such a large property for one widow and a child. I mean, things might change." I stared at her. Nothing's changing. But I saw it in their eyes, the calculation, the quiet hunger. They weren't here to mourn Ashton. They were circling, watching, waiting. Deanna tugged on my sleeve. "Mom, they're talking about us like we're not even here." I knelt to her eye level and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "That's because they're not family. They just wear the title." And in that moment, I made myself a promise. They wouldn't take one more thing from me. Not my home. Not Diana. Not Ashton's memory. They came dressed in black. But they weren't grieving. They were vultures. It was raining the next morning. Soft at first, like sorrow whispering against the window panes, then heavier, louder. I hadn't touched my coffee. Diana was still asleep, curled beneath Ashton's old flannel shirt. I kept it beside her now like a relic, something of him she could still touch. Then came the knock. 3 hard raps. No doorbell. Just the kind of entitled knocking that assumes someone owes you something. I opened the door and there they were, Ashton's parents, dressed as if for court. His mother wore pearls and a mauve coat. His father clutched an umbrella and a briefcase. "We didn't want to stay long," his father said, stepping in uninvited. "We were concerned," his mother added, her tone honeyed but her eyes razor sharp. "You must be overwhelmed with all the paperwork." They sat themselves on the sofa without asking. I stood. "Everything's being handled," I replied flatly. "Ashton's lawyer." "We should know the details," his father interrupted. "We're his parents after all. Surely he left something for us. We did raise him." My voice came colder than I expected. "He left love. I suppose that's more than you ever gave him." His mother's face twitched. "Alice, there's no need for hostility. We're here to support you." From a hallway, a small voice floated out. "They're lying, Mom." Deanna, barefoot, quiet, eyes wide as she watched from behind the stair rail. My breath caught. "Deanna, back to bed." She didn't move. They said the word inheritance. That's why they're here. There was no more pretending. "I want you out," I said, straightening. "This isn't your home, and my daughter will not be used as a pawn in your greedy little scavenger hunt." They rose, stiff and offended, but not surprised. His father grumbled something about consulting legal channels. I didn't blink. "Consult all you want." Ashton made sure of everything. As I shut the door behind them, the rain surged harder, washing the mud from their footprints, but not the bitter taste from my mouth. The reading of Ashton's will took place on a gray afternoon inside his lawyer's oak-paneled office. Rain lashed the windows. I held Diana's hand as Mr. Corbin, Ashton's trusted attorney, adjusted his glasses and glanced at the guests. Ashton's parents, stiff in black, and Eleanor, elegantly aloof with a tight smile that reeked of expectation. Mr. Corbin cleared his throat. Ashton left very clear instructions. Everything, his businesses, assets, properties, passes to his daughter Diana, with Alice as sole trustee until Diana turns 25. A sharp breath escaped Ashton's father. Eleanor leaned forward. "Excuse me?" Surely something was set aside for the family. Mr. Corbin reached into his case and pulled out 2 envelopes. He anticipated that question. These were sealed by Ashton himself, one for Alice. He handed me the first. My fingers trembled slightly. Inside was a handwritten note in Ashton's unmistakable scrawl. "Protect Diana. She is my light, my love, my legacy." The second envelope Mr. Corbin gave to Diana, who hesitated before extending it to Ashton's parents. They tore it open with greedy hands, only to find a single note inside. "Live in love with people and you will also be loved. I bequeath you LV." Silence fell like a dropped curtain. Ashton's mother flushed crimson. His father's jaw tightened. Eleanor blinked, stunned. I stood, heart pounding. He gave you what you gave him, nothing but a lesson. They left without another word, rage stiffening their spines. And I, clutching Ashton's final words, knew this was only the beginning. Ashton's parents filed a formal lawsuit against me and Diana, claiming emotional distress and unfair disinheritance. They argued that Ashton must have been coerced, that a man so generous couldn't possibly leave his entire estate to a child and her mother. The headlines in the local paper turned cold. Grieving parents challenge late son's will. It stung more than I expected. They knew exactly how to twist public sympathy. Court dates followed. Endless affidavits, hearings, whispered slanders in the hallway. Eleanor even testified, polished, poised, poisonous, implying I had manipulated Ashton in his final years, alienated him from his real family. But Ashton had left no room for doubt. The judge, an older woman with a sharp gaze and a reputation for sniffing out deceit, reviewed every piece of the airtight will and trust. She read aloud Ashton's final instructions. She noted the notarized documents. She saw the pattern of a son neglected, of a man finally taking control of his legacy. And on the 15th day, after all the noise, she ruled, "This court finds no merit in the plaintiff's claims. The will stands as is. All assets remain in the trust of Alice Walker for the sole benefit of Diana Walker." I felt my knees weaken. Diana gripped my hand tighter than ever. Ashton's mother gasped. His father stared ahead, stunned into silence. Eleanor turned and stormed out before the gavel fell. Outside the courthouse, the sun cut through the clouds. I looked at Diana. She wasn't a little girl anymore. She was Ashton's daughter, and now the rightful heir to everything he built. We had one.
Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.